And so if just one person is, elevated in their life, I've done my job.
Yeah.
And so I feel like at that event, that's my way of elevating somebody else's life.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Pushing the Pen. Today we're going to be talking about how to embrace being multifaceted while showing up authentically and maintaining balance. I'm super excited for today's guest, Taylor Campbell. So Taylor is the founder for the Girls Who Do It All, a community and resource organization for multifaceted women on their career journey. Taylor has always been passionate about encouraging women to explore all of their professional options. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I actually want to start us off with a lyric because I feel like this really sums up being multifaceted, but like how other people kind of can view it and like how they can box us in. So to quote the amazing Nicki Minaj, everybody want to try to box me in, suffocating every time it locks me in, painting their own pictures, then they crop me in, but I will remain where the top begins, because I'm not a word, I'm not a line, I'm not a girl that could ever be defined, I'm not fly, I'm levitation, I represent an entire generation.
Oh, I love that.
So poetic. I love it.
And it's fitting. I'm wearing pink. It's fitting.
Yes, come on. But I was listening to that song and I was just like, I really, there's always like a song where like you're saying it with your chest.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, you can't box me in.
Right.
You're not about to take a photo and crop me in. What are you talking about? Like, I run this. So let's talk about a little bit about you. How before you founded For the Girls Who Do It All, let's talk about your journey to getting there and like what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah. So I actually started off creating TikTok content. And so I created some TikTok content just sharing my journey about how I've explored so many different career paths. So I've moved, like when I was younger, I went to 2 different high schools and 2 different middle schools. And so I've had to be adaptable like a lot of times in my life. So a lot of people are like, is your parents in the Army? I'm like, no, my dad just got promoted and I moved a lot. So I moved from Kansas City, Missouri to Houston, Texas, and then to Philadelphia after that. And then I came to DC for school. So I've seen it all. I've interacted with so many different people. And I started to realize that I fit into a lot of different spaces. And I had to because I had to become adaptable. Yeah. And so that's just like a little bit of background on how my personality has been able to just maneuver through a lot of spaces. And then when I came to school, because at first I wanted to be a doctor for a very long time. I wanted to be a pediatric surgeon, actually, like for probably 10 years of my life.
Oh, wow.
And then I came to school and I was like, I think I want to be a lawyer. And so I decided to see what avenues like I could go down with that. And then when I started school, I realized that I don't know, I joined a bunch of different clubs and I was like, I'm really interested in real estate. I also knew I had a knack for marketing. I also enjoyed public speaking. Like there were so many different avenues that I was also really good at and I could excel in. And so I figured, why do I have to choose just one? And that's kind of what led me into figuring out what it is I want to do. And then I started creating TikTok content along my journey. And people like you and other people really were inspired by me expressing being multifaceted was something that you should be able to brag about and flex about. And so, yeah, a lot of women were inspired by that. And so I took that and I decided I should start hosting events. And in DC, I actually just recently launched and we had our first official event and I got so much support behind it because a lot of women are seeing now in this generation that like, we're not just doing one thing. Like you, for example, like you're not just doing one thing. Like entrepreneurship is something you kind of have to do at this point because the way the economy is, your job is not paying all of your bills. So you kind of have to venture out and do something else. And so I started to really see that at my age and I realized that I can start now and promoting it now and just see where it takes me.
Yeah, absolutely. Something in that I really like, it's just the ability to take action.
Yeah.
You not only saw like a demand for something, like there were many women who expressed that similar interest or like feeling that you shared along your journey and you said, okay, well, I'm going to take action and I'm going to build something for us, which I feel like a lot of, like, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there's people who don't know how to take action. Like they'll stay in that kind of like ideation phase. So what was that like for you to say like, okay, I want to build something. And then how did you take that first step?
I will say for me, the execution phase of things, my entire life, like when I was in high school, I started a club. When I got to college, I started a mentorship organization. So my entire life, like I have always been someone. Yeah, I've always been building. I've always been somebody who could execute. If I had an idea, I just figured out the steps of how to go about it. And so that part was easy for me. And then also my mom's an entrepreneur. She was a hairstylist for 25 years and she also owned 2 different salons in 2 different states. So I've seen it firsthand, and she was like a Paul Mitchell educator, like just several different things I've seen her do. And so that execution thing comes from her. And then also my dad is like an executive at Wells Fargo. So I've just been able to see like my parents execute. And so that's kind of where my drive comes from. But yeah, like I've been creating my entire life. And so it wasn't a difficult thing for me to figure out how do I go from ideation to execution.
Yeah. So that actually leads into one of my questions. So a driving force behind the why of pushing the pen is the notion that you can't go where you don't see yourself. And we just heard you say like you were able to even do something as simple as execute because that's all you've seen.
Right.
Like you've seen execution. You have been surrounded by people who execute. And so often people set low expectations for themselves because they've never witnessed something being achieved, or their surroundings just don't encourage that beyond what is immediately in front of them. So how can people explore various interests when some individuals can't even envision more for themselves or just kind of step outside of what their environment has cultivated?
First, I would say you have to leave your environment. Like now that you just have to. Like I think like what you said is so true. You can't see beyond what you can't see. So if you can't see it, it's going to be likely a lot harder for you to achieve it. So I would say if you can leave your environment, college is a great first step for a lot of people. Even like leaving the 6-block radius that you live on, like just walking somewhere else or, taking a bus stop somewhere else, like whatever you can do to leave your environment, you have to start there. And so that's what I would say. And then also like now we have social media, we have access to television, we have so many different outlets for you to figure out and see beyond what's just in your daily life. And so even if that's just dreaming, you're at least seeing something past what your reality is. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I would just add too, like I feel like reading is an underrated.
Yeah.
I went back to like last year I started picking up fiction books again, like because I got sucked in the drain of like the self-help category and just kind of like I really like biographies too, but I kind of put them in that same category. But fiction I feel like really allows you to just have fun and allows your imagination to run wild. And I think even if you do pick up like a biography, autobiography, or a self-help book, I think the resources start in the neighborhood, your library. Like if you can't immediately like leave or go out, like there's just so much available to us, and making sure that you're aware of those resources. Yeah, picking
back up off of what you said, I was that nerdy kid who read books my entire childhood. I didn't get a phone until I was like in the 8th grade or something, which like was unheard of at my age. And so my parents were very serious about that. Like read a book, like go outside, go play, read a book. And it paid off. But I was that kid who was always reading books and I wasn't ashamed about it. So
I love that. Like I'm trying to think. I'm currently reading a book called Find Your People, which is really good because it opened up my mind about like nurturing the community that we have. Like we always think about of like our immediate core group. Like I call my immediate core group my Power Rangers.
Oh, I love 5 that.
People. And then I'll have like my Avengers, which are like the larger like group. So really making sure like I'm nurturing like my Avengers, just because sometimes people get lost in the shuffle or like life is happening for everybody, but remembering the value in nurturing the people who are all around you is really important. But random book that I'm reading. So in a world that often encourages specialization, such as like niching down, we hear that term often regarding social media. How do you challenge stereotypes and demonstrate the value of being well-rounded and diverse in your interests and skills?
Yeah, I would say what I mentioned before, like the way the economy is and the way the world is going, like you kind of just have to be, that's the name of the game, you have to be diverse. And I think any job you go to nowadays, they want you to know how to do 6 other people's job. And so you got to make sure that you are able and equipped to do that and know how to handle that environment. But I would say personally for myself, I'm a political science major at Howard University. And this summer am working at Google in a marketing role. And so a lot of people would say, how as a political science major did you get a role in marketing? Like, I'm honestly unqualified to be in a marketing role, right? And so how I was able to pitch myself when I was in interviews is I would explain to people that policy is everywhere around us, and that honestly, to be a politician, you kind of have to market yourself. And so in that area, you just kind of have to figure out how you can fit what you are doing into any box. And so for me, political science and policy work fits into any box there is because it's in every single industry and it intersects with everything. And so I was able to just convey that and articulate it in every interview that I had, and I was granted the job. But for other people and their advice, like whatever you're doing, whether it's you're an artist, a dancer, like whatever that is, you just have to figure out how that fits into whatever role that you're trying to take or whatever job you're trying to get into. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
And I even say for people who are already in like a career or a role at a company, me and a friend of mine, we always say like everything gets used because where you are at today will be applied somewhere down the line. Like sometimes we don't have the foresight for the future to see how the skill set that you're building today, while you may see like your job is mundane or you're not really feeling it, or like okay, it's okay, or you could enjoy it, but later on you end up wanting to pivot. What you're working on, what you're honing in on, can be useful for where you're going down the line. And so I think too, I would encourage people to kind of have a wide perspective on what transferable skills look like and what, you know, showing up in the next season or job or career could really look like, and being able to draw from every single thing that you've done. I don't care if it was like playing soccer at 12, like, you know what I mean? Like,
that can help you in some way.
If you're in a room needing to network and somebody's child plays soccer or they played soccer, that's something that you can bond over and you can talk about. So everything definitely gets used. So I want to talk a little bit about content creation, your ambitions, and things like that. So you're an undergrad student at Howard.
I'm going to my senior year.
Oh, that is so exciting. Okay, so with ambitions for law school and a passion for content creation, how do you maintain balance between your academic pursuits and then creative endeavors?
Girl, it's hard.
Yeah. I know you recently said in a post, you're in a season where you like to play hard and work hard.
Yes, I do. I'm a firm believer in playing hard and working just as hard. So for me, like, there is no other way than to balance it. So I just have to figure out what that looks like for me. But when it came to my academics and working, I like money, so I chose work a lot of the time. But still, like with school, like I'm graduating magna cum laude. Like I'm still making sure that school is a priority for me. But I'm not gonna lie, like COVID really helped. Being able to have online classes, I had a lot more flexibility. Being able to work remote, I had a lot more flexibility in my life. I honestly don't know if I would have been able to do it if I had to go to class every single day. It just wouldn't have been physically possible. But that for me has helped a lot when it came to balancing both, and also just making sure that people around you know, like, hey, I can't go out this weekend, I got a lot going on, like, so that comes with that too. So yeah, like really it comes with you being determined, and if you want to do both, you can. That's it.
So what would you say to something that you just said, what would you say to the person who has a hard time saying no? Like like they're taking wanting to do it all to the next level because they say yes to everything. And I guess like for me, I know it's being very clear on your personal goals or your career goals, whatever that looks like, because that's going to shape what I say yes to and what I say no to. But what would you say?
I don't know. It's hard for me too because I like saying yes to a lot of things too. And I'm one of those people, I live my life on a no regret system. So I'm like, ooh, if I miss out on this event or I miss out, am I going to have FOMO? Am I going to regret this? But it's just weighing your options really. And like, you just have to know yourself. And like, if you can't go out and wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do what you got to do, then just know yourself. You can't do that. Some people can make it work and make it happen. So just really knowing yourself. And I get it. It's hard, especially like when you're young and you're trying to have fun and your friends are doing a lot of different things. You want to say yes. But also you have to think about what is separating you from those individuals. Like what is making you different, and you have to make sure that you are focused on that.
That honestly reminded me of a story or like a situation I was in where I had this really great opportunity, and my sister, back in another life, like I was a freelance makeup artist. So my sister was like, oh my gosh, no, like you should take this up, like you should do this client, like it'll be really, really great for you. And I was in a place where like I was kind of phasing out of like doing makeup like that. And I think I had something else going on, and I was like, I don't think it's worth like the exhaustion for me. Like I think that price is too high. And my sister's like, I think like you could still make it work, and like she's trying to be a mathematician, like figure it all out for me.
Yeah.
And I just had to tell her, like, the opportunities are not scarce. Like, there is more, especially more for like when I'm walking aligned in my purpose and what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I'm not afraid of saying no because I know the no does not close all doors.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I think sometimes people are afraid to say no because in their mind, this is it, And I understand that hesitation there, but I think I would encourage people to free themselves from that mindset, or just like just thinking like that, because it's just like there's more abundance on the other side of that mindset, and you feel a lot more free. You feel fluid. You feel like you can move into what's for you. I feel like a sense of like strength and knowing like, oh, when I'm saying yes to this, I'm operating in my talents, my gifts, or what I'm supposed to be doing in this season of my life. Like, everything is not for each season. And I know, like, I hear a lot of people saying like, oh, if I would have said yes or really went for this back then, I know I would have fumbled it. Like, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, and picking back off what you said, like when it comes to content creation, you know how many brands I've told no to? Like, you have to. If it doesn't align with what direction you're going in, then don't do it. I think I made a TikTok one time about how, like, some of y'all, for example, makeup artists, I'm like, some people, that beauty is probably not your niche. And so don't say yes to those beauty brands. Like, figure out what your niche is. Like for me, it's business. I know my lane, my avenue. I'm not the makeup artist. I'm not the hairstylist. I'm none of that. And so, like, me taking on these hair or beauty brands, like, it's not going to hit with my audience, whereas like something else would. And so just making sure you know what your audience, your direction, and knowing what your space is. And then you can say no to what isn't that.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of jump ahead to how being multifaceted really can shape your future and your career path. So what impact are you hoping to have by being multifaceted? Whether that's just in your career or in your personal life. I know you spoke on like you've been a mentor. So like, what is the impact in, embracing being multifaceted that you want to leave?
Yeah, I'm big on mentorship. That's something that I love doing. So I have mentors of my own. I'm actually, after I leave here, I'm actually going to lunch with one of them. And so I have mentors of my own, and then I also have mentees. And I don't even consider them to be mentees. We're friends. Like, we're literally just friends. But people that I just kind of give game to. Like, really, that's all it is. And so I feel like for me, at the most basic level, being multifaceted allows you to give game out in multiple different ways. And so I have a few friends that are in the health industry, some that are going into sports, marketing, or like communications. And even though that's not my lane, I can speak to a lot of these different industries just because I have explored a lot. And so for me, that's really all it is. Like, being able to give people advice in a very vast way is so important, and also making sure that like you're never closed off to any opportunity and letting people know that that's the possibility for them.
Absolutely. I'm gonna come back to mentorship, but I do want to jump back to For the Girls Who Do It All.
Yes.
I attended the event. I just want to tell you guys, I didn't know what to expect. And walking into a room full of beautiful Black and brown faces, the room was gorgeous. The atmosphere, I think people underestimate how, and I told you all of this in person. I don't think people understand, and I think they underestimate how hard it is to really cultivate an atmosphere of community. And what I mean by that is being able to create an open space for people to feel confident to go up to a stranger, introduce themselves, to network, to, whether it's the start of a friendship, a partnership, whatever that looks like. And that's exactly what you did. And it was so beautiful to see it. As soon as like the panel broke and you opened it up for people to connect and chat, like everybody was crisscross, going multiple ways in the room. And it was just such a really beautiful thing. Like, left and right, you hear people say like, oh, like, what's your number? Oh, not just asking for social media, and being very intentional, people asking people questions, wanting to hear more about them, because I think it's so easy for us to collect contacts and do nothing with them. And so I think that event was such a great stepping stone for so many women. You had one element that I walked in and I was like, I love this. I love this. So you had cards that said, how can people in this room support you? Why did you feel like it was important to have that element at the event?
Yes, I'm so glad you commented on that. So I have attended my fair share of networking events. And I felt like I'm an extroverted individual. And so I can put myself out there, but I know that there are so many people that that's not them. And so I was just thinking, how can I make my event different? How can I make sure everybody leaves with something and make sure that they're heard in some type of way, shape, or form? And if by no one else, at least by me. I know at least what you came here for. And so, and also shout out to my mom. She was also somebody who was like, you need to just do this, figure out what you can do. So we talked through it together. But for me, like even when I started the panel discussion, I'm a very like vulnerable and transparent person just in general in life. And so I kind of wanted to convey that at my event. And so when I started the panel, I was like, please be honest and vulnerable about what you came here for. Like, I know you're here for a reason. So just share what that is and don't be afraid to share it. And so I had those cards. People wrote down what it is that they wanted out of the event, how the people in the room could support them. And then I called people up on the mic. And I was like, hey, this is your time to just share. And this is a room full of like 50 women. And so for some people that may be scary, but I feel like I cultivated an area and a space where people felt comfortable being on that mic. And it felt like a family, like a room full of friends. Like, hey, like I can just share what I'm doing. And so like from that event alone, it was so fulfilling. Like some person who came super early, she was like, hey, I actually am trying to work at Google now. And I was like, oh, my mentor works there. She can give you a referral. Like just stuff like that goes a long way. And so I'm so glad. So you opened up with a prayer. I'm spiritual myself, but like I prayed at the beginning of this year to be a vessel for somebody else's life. And so for me, I've seen that like 10 times over and for the girls to do it all. And so if just one person is, you know, elevated in their life, I've done my job. And so I feel like at that event, that's my way of elevating somebody else's life, is figuring out how can we support you? What did you come here for? And me, if I can help you, I will. If I know somebody who can, I will.
I just thought that was so beautiful, and I was not expecting you to call people up to the mic. And so I was like I was in shock because I'm an introvert. So I'm like, and so I actually didn't even get to drop my thing in the bowl. But when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is, in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is actually so crazy. Like, it was a fun element because also it was so unexpected. But as you mentioned, like the girls, like they just jumped into it. They got up. They were like, can I come to the mic? Like they were like, they were.
It was like so many people were so excited.
They were so in it. And I love that. And even before, at the beginning of the event, I don't know who you had like kind of like opening, like welcoming.
Actually one of my great friends, Madison, she's actually going to be a sports broadcaster.
Okay, so Madison, she opened up and she was like, would anybody like to like just come up and introduce yourself? And that was another element, like people like came up, introduced themselves, said what they're up to, you know, and it was like a really great moment where like girls kind of like, even when it came to like that networking section at the end, because they maybe saw somebody come up to the mic in the beginning of the event, they're like, oh, okay, I had my eye on this person, like I want to connect with them, or different things like that. So I think there were so many different touch points, and basically the intentionality throughout the event was seen and felt, and I loved it.
Yay, I'm so glad.
I want to talk about two more things pertaining to For the Girls Who Do It All. So one is your slogan, or like kind of what we did, like how we did the cheers.
The cheers,
And so to doing it all and doing it well. So I know it's important for us to define success for ourselves. So I'm really intrigued to hear how you define what does doing it well look like?
For me, doing it well is really just executing on what your dreams are. So whatever it is that you want to do, that's you doing it well. Like, that's it. And so for me, like me just starting For the Girls Who Do It All, like randomly on a whim, it was a random idea. And then my friends were like, just do it. Like that to me is doing it well. And then doing it all can mean so many different things. I know I talk about professional life and career, but sometimes doing it all for some people is just being a mom. And that's okay. Like doing it all could be you showed up for your kids today. Like you did it all. Like, you know what I mean? And it is, because so many people can't do that. So many people aren't good at that. And so it's just like, to me, doing it all is so versatile. It can mean so many different things. And the whole purpose of it is I don't want to box you in any way, shape, or form. So doing it all and doing it well is really up to you.
I love that. So let's talk about, I think you mentioned at the event too, like you've experienced some perfectionism.
I have.
So let's talk about doing it all versus being a perfectionist. Because I think, and I know a few perfectionists in my life where again, there's a gap there between ideation and execution because of perfectionism, because they want to get it right.
Yeah.
And by jumping kind of head first and working things through, like I know that in the process you're refined and it gets better.
Yeah.
So like, what would you say, or what is your take on people trying to do it all while battling perfectionism or trying to overcome that?
I am a recovering perfectionist. And I feel like it is a struggle. People don't talk about that enough. They think of perfectionism as this amazing thing, but like it can really hinder you when you're trying to do something and execute. And so for me, when I finally quit the perfectionism thing, was when me having to move. Like I realized my life is not in my control. And so that final time that I had to move states again and like figure out how to get new friends and all of that, like I was like throwback to like me being in high school, but like I was coming to school eating lunch by myself. Like that is not a good feeling. You know what I mean? Especially like in your pivotal moments of your adolescent life. And so I realized early that I don't have full control over what's going on in my life. Therefore, perfectionism doesn't exist. You can't be perfect. It is what it is. And so when I realized that the final product isn't going to be perfect, it can only be as good as I want it to be in the moment, then you kind of escape that perfectionism mindset. And so really just be the best you can be. And that is my definition of perfect in the moment.
No, I actually love that. Wait, you got to say it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Be as good as you can be, and that is my definition of perfection in the moment.
Yeah. Focusing on that moment, that right now.
Yeah. Because if you don't, you'll miss it, and it's like if you wait too long to be perfect, you'll never come out with the idea. And like if we just look at everybody who is quote unquote successful or that people look up to, their journey didn't start off as perfect. And so you just have to accept that and continue.
Yeah. And I think just going to the word journey, a lot of people want the destination and not the journey. And we have to have the journey because I literally say this all the time. It's where we're refined. It's where we're formed. It's where we are made complete and whole through the ups and downs, the obstacles that come our way. Because when we're challenged, it forces us to think outside the box. It forces us to think bigger. It forces us to get creative. And there's something better on the other side of that. So what we start with isn't always like where we need to be. So it's like embracing those challenges that come to and not seeing it as a challenge, but as an opportunity. Yeah.
And piggybacking off of what you said, there's a quote by this lady, Morgan DeBond, you know who that is? The founder of Blavity. But she has a podcast and love her. Another girl out here doing it all. But she has a podcast and she said that if you start, you should be slightly embarrassed by your first product. And if you aren't, you waited too long. And that is so true. Like if you're not a little like, ooh, I didn't know if I wanted to put this out yet, then you waited too long. Like if it's too perfect, it's probably not, you waited too long. You should have started earlier. Yeah.
That is such a scary
It is, but it's like 5 years from now, you might be slightly embarrassed with what you put out 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So it's okay.
I get that. And going back to how like I love biographies, like I love seeing the first. I'm somebody like this now, that saying this out loud may seem a little crazy, but like when I discover somebody, I'm going back to your first Instagram post. I want to see the growth. I want to see the evolution. On YouTube, I'm going back to your first video.
Yeah.
I want to see where you started. I want to see the vision that you had for yourself, how you again, how you just created something more and something better as like time progressed. Like one thing I really love about autobiographies and biographies is like you see where somebody started and you see where they ended up, but how they got there, the decisions, the mindset that they were in, and what kind of forced them to, change and switch and do like all the things. But yeah, my little creepy thing.
So you're going back to somebody's first Instagram post. I'm like, my stuff is archived. I don't want nobody lurking on what I have.
I didn't do that.
No, but that's so real though. Yeah.
I'm cracking up. What can women look forward to from for the girls to do it all?
Yeah, so I really want to get into a space of hosting more events, more large-scale events as well, once we get more resources. So right now I'm completely self-funded, and so I'm looking to continue to expand, get more access to grants, especially for small business owners that are Black women. Like there's a lot of money and access out there for us. And then also just resources. Like I said at my events, somebody wants a referral for a job at Google, or like they want to know who's hiring here or who's doing what here. I want to be that one-stop shop for you. If you know you come to a FTG event, you're getting a job. or you're getting something when you come there.
Yeah.
So I kind of want that to be the brand and the narrative. Right. I want that to be the brand and the narrative. And also, I don't want to just stop in Washington, D.C. So we host our event in Washington, D.C. But actually on Sunday, so we're filming this on a Saturday. Tomorrow, I moved to California for the summer. And I'm hoping to host some events out there. And then someone just messaged me about hosting something in Chicago. So it's going fast.
Yeah.
And I'm excited and it's fun. But yeah, I want to go from city to city and really just inspire women to do a lot on their journey or do it all, whatever that means to them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So is the key to being multifaceted having the ability to provide yourself with time and resources to dive deeper into different hobbies or industries or whatever may interest you? And if so, like how can people with multiple interests start to nurture them?
Okay, so you asked about time. So is it
kind of
okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, I heard you.
No, yeah, I have that habit. I'm cracking up. So basically, being multifaceted is the key to kind of, I don't want to say succeeding, but living in that space, being able to have the time to nurture, your interests, your hobbies, and things like that. Because on the flip side of that, we'll talk about like, I don't know if you've heard the notion of like going deep before you go wide. And so it's like, should I just focus on one thing, or do you believe in being able to nurture multiple things at once?
I think you can nurture multiple things at once. I think for me, like you kind of already know what your passions are. Like it's ingrained in you from when you're young. Like the stuff that you used to do and pick up. Obviously, we can grow and evolve, and new things can happen. But like I've been yapping in my mouth since I was little. So like public speaking was something that I've always enjoyed doing. Marketing, like I've been taking random Instagram pictures since it came out and like figuring out what that looked like for me. So there are things, I think you just kind of have to find what that is for you. And a lot of people look past the things that they've consistently been doing and don't look at that as something that they can either monetize or they can be passionate about. And also some stuff doesn't need to be monetized. Girl, it could just be a hobby. Like, you know what
Enjoy
I mean?
yourself.
Enjoy it, right. Right. And I think a lot of people miss that when they try to monetize stuff that should just be a hobby and they consider it a failed business, but it's not a failed business. It shouldn't have been a business to start.
Yeah.
And so that to me is also something you have to take a look at too. But nurturing, there are things ingrained in us, and yes, you can nurture them and do things to, enhance what your passions already are, but it's in you. It's not on you,
That reminds me, another book, Elaine Wilteroth, More Than Enough. Have you ever heard of that book?
I've heard of it, yeah, but I haven't read it, yeah. I should read it? Okay.
Like, please. It's so good. It's so good.
Okay.
I will spare everybody the details right now, but she talks about kind of finding your zone of genius.
Okay.
I also did her masterclass, which was really nice. And so there she really spoke about your zone of genius and how, because you just mentioned like what we're passionate about or what we have interest in often kind of rears its head early on in our life.
Right.
But sometimes I'm sure like not all parents like are going to nurture their child being talkative.
Yeah.
Like you need to quiet down.
Yeah.
So
I was one of those. I got those notes sent home like she talks too much. She's disrupting my class.
Exactly. Like what's going on?
Yeah.
And so sometimes you end up shying away from that because you are often told like,
don't do that. Yeah.
Not right now, time and place, which, okay.
Right.
But she really just kind of talks about how, like, there's intersections that your interests or, like, what you've been told in different times in your life come together. And the point in which they come together is your zone of genius. And it's what you thrive in. And yeah, so that's kind of what you were saying just reminded me of. And it's so good. It's so true.
And what you thrive in, and I think, I heard this quote a long time ago, but, like, what you do for free, like what you will do for free, like I create content for fun. I press play and just let whatever happens happens. Like I've been hosting events since I was a little girl. My birthday party every year was like the main event in my life. And so like just what you would do for free, what you're happy to do, just nurture that, I guess, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talking about going deep before we go on wide, so that's something that I was kind of told about years and years ago, but basically kind of like learning all that you can, becoming an expert in one thing before you move on to the next.
Okay.
And so that's what I feel like a lot of people or I'll say like a lot of maybe like the boomers, like they come to tell you like before you move off to something else or before you start something else, you need to just do this one thing. You need to just stick to this first and allow that to grow and expand. So what do you say to that, or do you believe again that you can become an expert in one thing, but then remain open to multiple interests or learning more as you're still going deep?
I think you can. Like, I think there's no limit to what you can do. Like nowadays, like you can do so many different things. Like there are doctors who decided to stop doing what they were doing and decide a whole new venture. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many possibilities in life. And so I would say if you want to focus on being an expert in your field, do that. If you do not, don't. Like that's it. So for me, that's what I would say. Like I think you can be an expert. You can also dibble and dabble in other things and just see what that looks like for you. But,
Absolutely. So let's go back to talking about networking. I think a lot of people struggle with what happens after I get the contact. Where do I go from here? And how do I build a genuine relationship with someone? So you said that you have a few mentors yourself. So how did you maybe meet them, or how did you take the step to build that genuine relationship?
So I've met mine each on like various random occasions, but one in particular that I just met at a random networking event, honestly. I will say I went up to her. She was the only Black woman in the room. It was full of men. I went to a real estate networking event. There was a point in time where I'm still very interested in real estate, but I wanted to do commercial real estate full time. And so I was going to different events just to kind of learn more information. If I think I want to do something, I'm going to go out and find the information to see if it's something that I actually want to do. And so I went out, I started talking to her, and I was like, hey, I want to grab lunch. And I followed up. I think a lot of people get the contact and then they don't follow up. Or they do that one little follow-up and they feel like that person ignored them or didn't respond. Like that's enough. Like I know for myself, I'm busy. So if I might have seen it and I never responded, but it's nothing personal to you at all. And so I think just not taking it so personally, like you have to be pushy and advocate for yourself. And that's my advice. And so continuously reaching out, and don't be annoying, but like continuously reaching out and making sure that when you talk to that person, you're not just talking about business. Like they're a person with a real life. And so talk to them about what they have going on in their life. And then you talk about your own personal life, and then business can come a little later, and that genuine relationship will naturally form.
You also just kind of spoke about you went to events. You had an interest in something, and then you went to events. So also when it comes to finding a mentor, you need to go to the spaces where that interest intersects.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure people got that. I attend a lot of events, a lot of conferences, and my approach is always like, I want to know the person, because while you may have a position or a specific title, I actually don't want to be mentored by somebody who's not a good person.
Talk about it.
Like that, like if you're a nasty person, if your values do not align with mine, there's no point of us even having a conversation. So I think too, identifying, like I navigate my life and my world with personal core values. And so ensuring that the people around me are operating within those same, values or similar values is really important to me. And I think sometimes people forget, like, you want who you surround yourself with to be a good person, to be a decent human being. Because again, we can get fixated on the titles or what can you do for me? And you miss the fact that this person not hitting you back, or, look at how they're emailing you, how they're communicating with you, how they're talking to you. Is this a person that you want to mentor you? Because just because you're trying to build that connection, just like an interview process, I feel like people forget, like, you need to vet them. You need to vet them. Like, it's a two-way street always. Don't think just because you have a need that you can't have a standard either. So I think, make sure y'all do that.
And there's a such thing as picking the wrong mentor. Like, if they are not a well-respected or liked person in their circle, you don't want them to be your mentor. Because when you enter into that space and people see that you're under that individual, like, now your reputation is on the line. And so it's just, there's a such thing as that. And picking the wrong mentee too. Like, oh, this is the person who you're picking, like, she's not a good person, or he's not a good person, or I've heard such and such about this. So, like, doing your own personal vetting is key, and that's so important. So, and making sure you know who's in their circles and how do people in their circle view them. That's important to know too.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move on to our Passing the Pen segment. And so this is where a listener just sent us a question. And so we're just going to go ahead and answer that and help them out.
Okay. Let's help them.
So, dear Pushing the Pen, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur trying to build a strong network in both the tech industry and the creative arts. What strategies can I use to effectively expand my network across these different fields, and how can I build authentic, meaningful connections rather just collecting contacts?
Okay.
Kind of spoke on that.
So this is right up my alley, right in my scope. So when I started For the Girls Who Do It All, I was really thinking about, like that individual said, how can people not just collect contacts, but actually make meaningful connections? So I would say for you, trying to do tech and arts, I would say go to these events like Afrotech, go to these conferences that, Google hosts, Microsoft hosts, all of these, if this individual is in a specific niche, like going to those niche conferences, I would start there. And then your mind will be opened up to so many different people that you meet. And then also, I know, for example, Afrotech, they definitely combine the arts and the tech space. And so there's so much, there's so many possibilities when it comes to combining technology and arts. And so I would say just finding those people, and you will be shocked, because when it comes to media production, when it comes to content creation, that is combining technology and the arts. And so I think now that's honestly the main thing that a lot of people are looking to do is combine technology and the arts. So trust that you are not alone in your journey. And I think going to these events, you will find people that have the same struggle as you, and take those people to coffee, and you guys can talk about the struggle together and how you're overcoming it.
Absolutely. I love that answer. So we just kind of spoke about a soundtrack. So your journey thus far, what songs radiate with you and where you're at?
Yeah, so actually when I was talking to you, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, what song? Because I'm not the huge music buff, at all. But one thing came to mind was the India Irie song where she's like, I'm not the average girl from the video. That to me really embodies me, and my worth is not determined by the price of my clothes. Yes. So I've grown up my entire life, my parents have pushed and instilled in me that my worth is so much more. And so for me, that's what I've always embodied. And I think a lot of confidence comes from knowing that. And then when you're confident, you can achieve anything. And you don't have self-doubt when it comes to your entrepreneurial journey or when it comes to doing it all and being multifaceted. You know that you can achieve so much more than what the general public thinks you can.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Okay. So tell us how you're pushing the pen in your career.
Yes, so I am pushing the pen and I'm making waves and changing the industry by starting For the Girls Who Do It All, which is a multifaceted community group for women that are looking to do not just one thing, but multiple things, and explore not only their professional endeavors, but also their creative passions. And we're here to just support each other along the journey and along the way, so that women who ask questions like those, how can they combine two industries, they can come to my event and figure out how they can do it. So yeah, we're starting in Washington, D.C., but I hope to come to a city near you.
Absolutely. So in that same vein, tell us where they can find you.
Yes, you can find my personal Instagram at Taylor M. Cam, Taylor M. C-A-M. And then you can also follow For the Girls Who Do It All at FTG Who Do It All. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram.
Amazing. You guys know where you can find us. You can find me on Instagram at brooklyn.simone, and you can follow Pushing the Pen at pushing.thepen on Instagram. We cannot wait to see you guys next time.